Dear colleagues, once more, I want to welcome you to this press conference. It's my honor to welcome Professor Vincent Meile, the Legal Counsel of the African Union, who will be addressing you on the issues of elections. And as you know, that will be one of the highlights of this 27th African Union Summit holding here in the Kigali Convention Center. Dear Director, please, the floor is yours. You will begin by introducing the subject and we will take questions.
Thank you very much, Esther, for introducing me and for organizing this press conference. Schedule has been a very tight one, so I'm glad the summit, first day of the summit ended with some time to be able to do this. What I prefer normally is that you ask questions in the area of the press conference rather than me provide a briefing as such. It's known that there will be elections at this particular summit because the life of the commission has come to an end and there has to be a new commission. And all kinds of speculations have taken place in the last few months about what the election is and what it is not. I've not been able to address the press on this in terms of what it is. Of course, the Assembly took a decision this morning that the election will continue as it is recorded in the agenda and the schedule. And at least I've been informed that the election will be the first thing tomorrow when the Assembly resumes. The election first will be that of the chairperson and the deputy chairperson by the Assembly itself. And thereafter, the Executive Council will retire to another room to elect the 8 commissioners. And of course, after that, the Assembly will eventually appoint the commission, the members of the commission, and whose, if you like, term will begin to almost begin. Of course, there will be a timeline within which they will be inducted at the headquarters and assume duty just not too long after the elections. So I think the point remains that the election is holding tomorrow, so that all speculations about postponement of the election and all that is brought to rest, because I've seen a few publications by you press men and women about the election, and I just, as one responsible for the election, I wonder where you got that information about who was going to be running and who was not running and what would happen and what would not happen. But the briefing for me is that the Assembly is holding the election tomorrow, and hopefully we will have a new commission by the end of tomorrow. So that is the little brief. Whatever information, whatever question then you may want to ask me, I will be able to provide to the extent possible any answer that will satisfy your curiosity about the elections.
Thank you, Professor Meile, Legal Counsel of the African Union. We will now open the floor to the media people to ask their questions. I can see some hands. Can we have the microphone, the roving microphone? Let's start from where you are, okay? Present yourself, your media, and let's proceed like that.
Thank you very much, Groom Jada, CCTV. Professor, thank you very much for briefing us on this particular matter. My question is, we have heard that ECOWAS as a region has concerns when it comes to the elections and they have asked for postponement. Is that still happening? And what are chances if elections, let's say, are postponed? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Maybe we'll take more questions while the director is taking down notes. Yes, my sister with the scarf. Present yourself.
Sophie Mkwena from the SABC. I just want to know, in terms of candidates, who are the candidates, which regions, and in terms of gender, can you take us through the profile of candidates?
Thank you for that second question. Maybe we take a third one. Bring the mic in front. I have my brother sitting in front of me.
My name is Ahmed from BBC, and according to some people within AU, there were 3 candidates, and 2 of them, they are not from a democratic country like Uganda and Equatorial Guinea. So legally, under AU, do you think if a person is coming from an undemocratic country will be elected as the chair of the AU Commission? Thank you.
Okay, let's first answer those 3, please. Then we will come back. Bring the mic in front. She will be the next person for the next round of questions. Thank you. Okay. Director, you have the floor.
I just think I need to understand the question that Jerome asked. ECOWAS concerns, is that still happening? What happening? What do you mean, is that still happening? I'm telling you that there's going to be elections. What is ECOWAS concerns? I'm not sure that ECOWAS determines what elections will hold or not in the African Union. So I do not know what you mean by ECOWAS concerns, actually. Now, the second question is, who are the candidates and what's the profile? I wish I can tell you all about the profile. I can't. In terms of gender, for the chairperson, we have 2 women, the former vice president of Uganda and the current foreign minister of Botswana. And we have the current foreign minister of Equatorial Guinea. These are the 3 people contesting for the position of the chairperson. Now, in terms of their profile, I do not know how you want me to describe. I'm sure you've seen all kinds of social media information as to who they are. Their profile basically is that 2 are foreign ministers and 1 is a former vice president of a country. And I'm sure that is enough profile. In terms of gender, of course, 2 women and 1 man. I think that satisfies that bit of the question. The third question from the BBC, can you define democracy for me?
Interesting.
I'm a professor, so I need answers. What is democracy? Because you say candidates from undemocratic countries. I don't know what you mean. They are members of the African Union. Candidates, to be a candidate, it is open to all members of the African Union. I do not know whether some members are democratic, some are undemocratic, and it is not me to make a judgment as to who is democratic or undemocratic. Maybe the BBC does, and should be able to tell us who that is in terms of and you singled out Uganda and Equatorial Guinea. I don't know your parameters in terms of who is a democrat, which country is democratic and which one is not. So the determination or the requirement is membership of the African Union, and they're all member states of the African Union. They are not under suspension, either due to unconstitutional change or due to non-payment of their subscription to the African Union. Those are the 2 situations or conditions under which they would not have participated. Democracy means different things to different people. Turkey just happened a few days ago about a planned, an attempted coup that was foiled. Some people believe that it was a just cause for the military to come. Others feel, well, no, this is a democratically elected government. At the same time, others are criticizing the current government. I know that some people call Mr. Obama a dictator, so I do not know whether that is a democracy or not. But whatever the case, maybe BBC has a better understanding of what democracy is all about.
Thank you very much, Prof. We will open the floor to more questions. Let's start by the lady here. Introduce yourself, your media.
My name is Sarah from the South African Broadcasting Corporation. I wanted to find out who is eligible to vote. Is it just presidents? Because we understand some of them have already left. And what determines that this person is going to be the winner? We've also had suggestions that the 3 candidates who are there do not have the caliber of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. And so there's a suggestion that the election is postponed until January, and there are countries that are fronting President Kikwete, former President Kikwete of Tanzania, as a person who would possibly have the clout similar to Dr. Zuma. Have you heard that, and what is your response to that?
Thank you. Let's get more questions. Bring the mic this way, please.
Merci, je m'appelle Badi Banga, journaliste de Mama Radio en République démocratique du Congo, professeur. Deux petites questions précises. La première, à votre analyse, quel bilan dressez-vous du mandat de 4 ans de la présidente de la Commission de l'Union africaine? La deuxième question, c'est celle de savoir, en fait, à votre analyse, dites-nous réellement quels sont les défis qui attendent le successeur du docteur Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma? Merci.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's get the next question. I'm taking down the question for you. The next behind you, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Arnold Saga. I'm working with CNBC Africa. I have two questions, Professor. The first one takes us to SADC, which has endorsed Dr. Pelonini Vincent, and this endorsement has come with a condition that if Dr. Zuma is stepping down after just one term, it's only fair that they do have an endorsement, an endorsee, quote unquote, from the SADC region in Dr. Vincent Pelonini. If you'd care to comment on that, if at all it is a possibility to be passed on to Dr. Vincent. My second question takes us to the second candidate, Specioza Wandera Kaziro from Uganda, whose career was riddled with fraud. Numerous cases in Uganda from the early, from 2001 as vice president from Iganga. She had fraud cases. And what does this mean for the AU to have a candidate in the home stretch whose career has been riddled with fraud? Thank you.
Let me answer that.
Okay. The French question. Okay, let's answer this. Let's give the floor to the director to answer these few questions.
Okay, thank you. SABC, who is eligible to vote? Is it just presidents? Now, the rules are very clear. The Assembly elects the Commission. And in terms of division of labor, the Assembly elects the chairperson and the deputy, and then delegates the power to elect the other 8 commissioners to the Executive Council, which is made up of ministers of foreign affairs. Now, election is by states, and the Assembly is made up of states. Now, in some delegations, presidents may lead them, while some may be led by ministers. Some could even be led by ambassadors. I think the important point to consider is that states do carry out the election. And remember that ambassadors are representatives of their presidents wherever they are. So states do the election, no matter who leads the delegation. Now, the question of what you heard about Kikwete, and all, you see, you guys, journalists, you like listening to rumors. That's why these people persecute you all the time. Somebody manufactures news, and all of a sudden, it becomes mainstream rather than the truth. I think you should be looking for the truth. I have no Kikwete on my list of candidates. So where is that coming from? And it is usually very difficult for a former head of state to be chairperson because there are lots of protocol issues associated with whether or not a former president will want to subject himself to being questioned and queried by ambassadors in the PRC, whom he may have appointed. So I don't know where Kikwete's name comes from. Those are speculations, and unfortunately, some of us really do not deal with speculations. The list is very clear that I have. I can assure you that Kikwete's name is not on that list. Now, the question of stature of candidates, what do you mean by stature? Are they supposed to be fat, slim, tall, or short? I don't understand. These are nominees of member states. When you say stature, I don't know whether a foreign minister is of less of a stature or a former vice president. So I don't understand the question of stature. Maybe you have a better idea in terms of what stature is. Of course, the I'll come to that. Let me deal with the related DRC. What is the achievement of the AUC for the past 4 years? What is your opinion? What is the challenge and expectation of the incoming chair of the commission? I will ask you to reserve that question to the chairperson of the African Union Commission when she's giving you a press interview to ask about she's the head and ultimately accountable. She's the accounting officer of the commission and the legal representative of the union. So, and she was responsible for the 4 years. When you interview her, please ask her about the achievement of the commission for the last 4 years. And what is the expectation, the challenge and expectation of the incoming commission chair? I will also advise you, this is a legal advice now, for which you're not paying. Ask the new chair what is expected of him or her when he or she is elected, and possible challenges that he or she may face. I'm not competent to answer for the incoming chair or the outgoing one. And then second, finally, the question from the gentleman about the former vice president of Uganda, who, according to you, tenure was riddled with corruption and fraud. I'm a lawyer. I don't make empty statements. So I'm not sure I will be able to answer that question. A lawyer looks at evidence before making conclusions. You journalists can easily write stuff based on rumors or what you heard, and then you say, well, you are protected because you should be able, speech should be, limited. Your freedom of speech is very well respected, and as a human rights professor myself, I'm very pro-human rights free speech, but as a lawyer, I'm very careful in the use of words because you need to prove to be able to go to the bottom of statements that you make. I'm not aware, and I'm not competent to answer as to her tenure as Vice President of Uganda and whether it was riddled with fraud or allegations of fraud. You didn't even say allegations of fraud, you say fraud. As if you were there, you knew exactly, maybe you participated with her on the fraud, so that you are given evidence now in terms of the fraud. So I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Do you want more questions? Can we take more questions on the floor? Let me clarify a few things in terms of the process. I see that nobody has asked questions. You're asking sensational questions rather than substantive questions. In terms of the process is very clear under Rule 42 of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly. In terms of the majority required, the majority required is 2/3 majority of member states. We have 54 member states, and the 2/3 majority is 36 for anyone to be elected. Now, there will be an initial 3 rounds. If someone obtains the required majority first round, fantastic. If not, we go to the second round. If not, we go to the third round. If not, we go to the fourth round. If we go to the fourth round and nobody does, the candidate with the list will drop out. And it continues like that, another further round, 3 rounds. If not, the candidate with the list will drop up to the last 2. And then if further voting is carried out and no one wins 2/3 majority, there's a provision that the election may be suspended. The chairperson may suspend the elections until new elections are held, whereby an interim measure may be put to facilitate the process of a new election. That is what the rules are. And there are no rules that elections can be postponed when they have been duly constituted. And that's why the Assembly, in its wisdom, felt they must operate within the rules and within legalities, the legality as sanctioned by the rule that elections should hold. If in the process of holding an election, by the operation of the rules, elections are not concluded, there are processes within the rules on how to deal with them. And that is exactly what is going to happen tomorrow. And we're hoping that we will have a very smooth election tomorrow and get
the commission constituted. If it happens that some elections were not concluded, there are processes for dealing with those, either based on the configuration or based on regional candidates, because the requirement is each region must produce a man and a woman, at least a woman. It may well be 2 women, but it cannot be 2 men. So assuming we have an election whereby we've elected in a particular portfolio a man from a region, and then subsequent portfolios you find that the same region is presenting a man, that will not happen. That particular election will be called off, and that region will be required to submit a female candidate for the next election, which may happen in the next summit. So those kind of situations happen when the regions are not adequately represented in terms of gender, in which case you will need to call for new candidates from that particular region. For example, we held the election of judges of the African Court 2 days ago at the Executive Council. Now, the modalities for gender and equitable representation requires that each region shall present a male and a female candidate. Now, we find that in particular regions, only male candidates were presented, and those male candidates were ultimately not eligible for election based on gender representation. They may well be based on geographical, but assuming that that region already has a judge in the court who is a male, then presenting a male candidate means that such a region will not proceed with election. So we conducted election of 2 judges, which returned 2 females. And the other regions, the North and the South, which presented male candidates, were told to go back and represent their candidates for the next election, and they must be female. And the Assembly just endorsed that recommendation of the Executive Council before we broke off for the evening. So that is the process, and it's a rule-based process, and the rules will be respected, and the Assembly has decided to respect the rules. And so, please, when you leave this, report. Stop speculating. There's no ECOWAS concern that has made an election to be postponed. Elections are going forward tomorrow. There's no extra list candidates. The candidates are already contained in the list. So no more names will be entering the list while the election is going on tomorrow. If somehow we're not able to obtain the necessary majority, then the rules will kick in, and you will be advised as to the outcome and what the next step will be in terms of fully constituting the commission. So that is the position, and please report accurately. For once, try and paint the correct picture. Don't slant it. Don't inject your own nuances to what you may have heard. I'm sure I spoke very straightforward. Don't, when you are reporting me, you say, you know, he spoke but not convincingly. Sometimes you will say stuff like that. That's your judgment, not. I'm sure I'm quite convincing in terms of what I have presented. Thank you very much, unless, of course, there's any other question. If not, I'll have to run.
Let's give a last opportunity for those who want to ask questions. Please bring the mic right in front here. Here. Present yourself and your media, and we'll take the 2 other questions. And you.
Nick Long, Voice of America. If the election doesn't produce a winner with 2/3 majority and it has to be suspended, is there a provision for appointing an interim chairperson?
Yes. There is a provision for an interim chairperson until new elections are called.
Okay, let's get the mic here. Yes. Yeah. Then you.
Karine Duplessis, I'm writing for News 24. Yeah, my question was similar. I wanted to know, last time Jean Ping stayed on for another 6 months. Is that an option for the current chair to stay on? And another question was about the nomination process. Should this election not produce a result and it be postponed to January, how will the nominations work? Will it be 3 months again? Will it be closing 3 months ahead of the summit again, or how will that work?
Yeah, let's give the mic. New African Magazine.
Thank you very much, Professor, for giving us that clarification. It helps a lot. The question that I had actually has already been probably asked by Voice of America about if the in the likelihood of suspension of the election. What is the time frame? Do you have a time frame when the next would be?
Thank you. Send the mic right in front. I still see one last hand, and that will be the last for the day. Thank you very much.
My name is Ivan Mujisha. I work with the East African. I have just one question again about a particular candidate. As my friend Arnold said, I'd like you to take us a little bit back on Dr. Speciosa Wandira Kaziwe. You said you don't know, it was speculation and nothing was concrete. But in the New Vision in 2008, it reports that she was suspended from office as the head of a microfinance project that mismanaged 60 billion Ugandan shillings, which was supposed to be given to the poor people for poverty alleviation. Would a person with such a historical background of alleged crime and under suspension be a good person to lead AU? How does the AU come up with this list of candidates? Thank you.
All right.
That's good. Okay. Prof, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The question News 24 asked, I just answered VOA in terms of if no majority is obtained, there will be a process for an interim chairperson. Because you asked the question, Jumping stayed, is it the likelihood for because you've not even given the details of Jumping, how he stayed. Because exactly. So there will be an interim process for an interim chairperson until new elections are held if 2/3 majority is not obtained. That's it. That is just the process. There will be an interim chairperson. Okay. The next question is, somebody says the likelihood of suspension. Did you arrive at that conclusion based on what you've seen or what you've heard? I'm just telling you that elections will be holding. And the question of likelihood of suspension means you've already judged that circumstances currently show that there will be likelihood of suspension when elections have not held. Will you please clarify?
Please take the mic. Please send the mic.
Just to clarify, sir. No, I meant in the likelihood that you don't have a majority.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The same question. You don't have majority, there will be process under Rule 42 of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, which is available online. Rule 42 is available online. There are mechanisms under which an interim chairperson will be in place until new elections are held. Okay? And then the next question about the former vice president of Uganda having been suspended from office. Can I ask you, who suspended her from office? The president. And the same president presented her as chairperson of the African Union. So, I don't know what you're asking me. Maybe the president found out that she was not really guilty of what you are accusing her of, and then felt that he should present her. Because is there a court case that found her guilty of that? She was suspended by the president, but there was no court case. So again, it's value judgment as to that kind of person. I am not in a position to say what kind of person she is. If the president who suspended her maybe felt that the woman is not here to defend herself, maybe in the course of the process, I'm sure you've been seeing them around the corridors, you could just drag them and ask them questions about her situation, why she was suspended, and how the person who suspended her eventually now is putting her forward. Maybe they found out that they suspended her wrongly. You never know.
Thank you very much, Prof, for coming for this press conference. Thank you for coming, colleagues. Actually, we are here to bring you content with resource people from the African Union to give you right information, tell the truth. That's what we want you to do. Thank you very much, dear colleagues of the live stream, and I want to thank you for your patience, and let's meet another time.